call to order the regular meeting of the Special Utility Authority for February 18th, 2014. We're going to start out with the invocation. I'm going to ask Doug to say the invocation. Before that, I would ask that we observe a moment of silence for Willie Osborne and the Osborne family. I think most of you know Willie passed away over the weekend. He leaves a 50-year legacy of civic involvement and leadership in our community that I don't believe is probably matched by anyone. And so if you would please bow your head for a moment of silence, and then Doug will lead us in a prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day and the beautiful weather you've sent us. And Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve this fine city and to make the decisions, Lord, that this government can move forward. We ask that you'd be with each one of the members of the council tonight, Lord. Give us direction and give us wisdom on what direction to take, and just pray for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address this authority about any of the agenda items? There being no one, item number 5 is the consent agenda. Staff recommends that items 6 through 14 be placed on the consent agenda. I would like to ask that item 14 be excluded from the consent agenda. I want to talk about a specific clause there. Are there any other items that any of the members would like to see removed from the consent agenda? If not, then may I have a motion to approve items 6 through 13?
I'll make a motion to approve items 6 through 13 on the consent agenda.
A second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson.
Aye.
Weston.
Aye.
Sharbut.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Thank you. Item 14 deals with the fireworks contract. Jim Thompson, a longtime fireworks, hero for our community, has passed away last year, and we now have a new gentleman doing it. Actually, a retired police officer from the city of Miami, I think, is doing it this year, Mr. Garber. And we have an agreement. One of the things on the agreement dealt with the renewal terms, and you have that opened up.
Yeah.
And we're just,
Yeah, you're right here.
I thought I had it too. It talks about the primary term for 1 year and shall automatically renew for 2 additional years at the same rate unless notice of cancellation of renewal is given in writing by either party within 45 days completion of the most recent show. If renewal is not canceled by either party during the 2-year period, during year 2 and again in year 3, then it renews again. And I don't know if that is just industry standard, Mr. Bishop, or if you've had a chance to look at this, or David, do you?
I have.
Okay.
Mr. Bishop.
No, go ahead. No.
I don't know if it made it into your packet, but last week, I believe it was, I forwarded a proposed redaction. And that really isn't so much to address whether the provision is appropriate in the business or in the line of work. It's designed to address a matter of state law that I think we've discussed previously. And that would be that, well, depends on the source of funds ultimately, I guess. If the MSUA is going to specifically enter into the contract as a public trust, because the dollar amount is low enough, you could do multi-year contracts. And that may be why it's on the MSUA agenda rather than the city council agenda. As to whether that renewal period is industry standard or carries some particular import for the contractor, I do not know.
Does anybody have any concerns with the way it's phrased?
So what you're saying is if within the fireworks display 45 days after the display, either party can terminate.
Yes. If we don't, it automatically renews.
And that's on an annual basis.
Yes.
It gives you 45 days to evaluate whether or not you liked the display. One of the attractive elements is that you've locked in the price theoretically then for 2 more years. But then they have the ability to cancel if there's a price increase, but then they also then can plan for next year's work. And I think, you know, what I've learned in this industry is, as far as the fireworks is concerned, planning is a big deal for them to know how much material they're going to order in a given year. And, you know, all types of communities schedule theirs on different days. The city of Boise, Idaho, for example, schedules theirs before the city of Boston's because they use the same people that do Boston's, and they get almost the same display that Boston does because it's a rehearsal for the company. So there's just, you know, strange little things that happen in the industry. But this gives you, you know, a time to evaluate whether or not you like the show, and then you've got the ability to lock in the next year at the same price. And if you don't, you could cancel, and you have plenty of time to go out and seek somebody new.
That was one of my concerns, Mayor, is if we could get the funds after this year. That was one of my
Because it's the
concerns.
SUA,
Yeah.
David says that we can.
Yeah.
And it is locking in the price, which is to the city's benefit. It said shall automatically renew for 2 additional years. That was I guess the part that kind of threw me. Normally, it would be a 1-year renewal at a time. And so, if I'm interpreting that correctly.
So your concern is that we wouldn't have we can review it for up to 45 days after the initial
And
display.
then we're locked in for 2 years.
Without a review after the
Right.
after
That's
year
my
2.
interpretation of it.
And the way I read it, I think that, and I don't know that it's a huge deal, while the price is fixed, I believe the way the document's drafted, you know, if prices went up dramatically in the fireworks market, whatever that is, you know, he could probably adjust his show to fit the budget. I mean, there's,
You know, if it pleases the chair, I think you've got the ability to cancel it each successive year.
Okay.
It is a bit
Well, the
clunky.
language later on sort of implies that, but it
yeah.
just is, okay.
But, you know, again, you know, we could, if you're of an interest, we could table this and bring it back at your next meeting, and we can go back to the vendor and see if there's some.
I would like to go ahead and deal with it if we can. If there's no other issues anyone has, we just approve it subject to the clarification of that
Right.
point.
And then, Judy, if you'll make sure that we tickle, that we don't miss that 45-day window next
Right.
year.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd like to get it on the first meeting after that agenda for discussion, and that'll still give us time then if there's any issues we want to work through. So probably whatever that first meeting after the 4th of July next year would be, if we can tentatively put it on that agenda. So again, I think everything in here is fine and to the city's benefit. I was just a little concerned about the way that one particular clause read. And so I would make a motion to approve the contract subject to clarification of that one aspect of the clause, that we can, in fact, after a single year, still cancel, not be committed to both years.
Second.
Schultz,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
McLean.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 15 then, employee recognition of Todd Murphy for 25 years of service.
We would like to recognize Todd Murphy tonight. He was born in Miami and came to work for the city in February of 1989 as a meter reader. In 1990, he moved to the wastewater treatment plant, where he currently serves as pollution control and stormwater manager. Todd works very close with DEQ, meeting all permit requirements for the wastewater treatment plant and the stormwater and pretreatment programs. Under his management in 2011, the wastewater treatment plant was presented the George W. Burke Jr. Facility Safety Award from the Water Environmental Federation. Todd has been actively involved in the community and also in Little League Baseball as either a coach or an umpire. His other interests includes fishing, boating, bowling, and watching sports. Todd, thank you for your work and thank you for your 25 years of service.
Todd, it is my distinct honor and special pleasure to present you this certificate recognizing your 25 years of service to this panel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Todd. And I know Todd really does an excellent job, make sure that we have clean, safe drinking water. So we appreciate your efforts.
He does. We don't drink that, do we, Todd?
He keeps something clean. Okay. Item number 16, request for special dispensation beyond approved policies on utility bill for citizen Brandy McDowell. Ms. McDowell, are you here tonight? Ms. McDowell. Okay, I think the last time we had a situation where a resident was not here to represent themselves, we decided that we would take no action in the future in situations like this. So we will, that item will, I guess, we'll just move on to the next item. Item 17, request for special dispensation beyond approved policies for Teresa Logan, excuse me. Ms. Logan, are you here? Okay, the same applies there. Item number 18, presentation by AccuRead regarding their meter reading process. Rachel Fuller. Ms. Fuller, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't make the last meeting. Unfortunately, the weather detained me on the side of the road for a while and I missed the meeting. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about our company. Olameter is an ISO 9001 company. We have been in service for a while. I've personally been in meter reading, meter services, billing for over 20 years. We as a company service over 200 clients in 36 states. They range from large investor and government-owned utilities to smallest co-op and municipalities. Our smallest customer is a 2-day read with a one-man person. So, you know, we cover all utilities. We have over 2,000 employees, and we are grouped into 4 categories, which is AccuRead, DPG, TellDig, and back office. And they cover numerous territories. AccuRead is about servicing the meters. We can come in and do a total takeover. We can read your meters, we can service your meters, we can validate the readings, we can edit your meters, we can bill them, we can estimate them for storms, and we can mail out invoices. We do collections and also theft detection. We train our employees in-house. We have certified trainers in different states that are certified to go into new contracts and train the new employees. Training can consist of anywhere from 2 weeks to over a month. We also have our own in-house computerized training, which is called ReadMe. And in some areas where, you know, some contractors, we can't access the computer, so we have an additional one called Meter Pro, where they can go online and access that from home, whichever one benefits them. The one that we own is ReadMe. So we own our own, our IT department services it. With this contract, we do hire local people. We did hire local people. I can say our last hire was not from this area. We went on the outskirts of town and hired. But everyone up until that point was hired here locally in this particular area. The trainers were from outside of this area because we had no one here locally certified to train, so we bring them in from other areas. Our closest area is Arkansas, and they do come in and train. They are certified with our ISO company, our auditor, so they have the ability to train on not only gas, water, and electric. A lot of them also have meter service training. Currently, we are working with the city on marking the meters accurately to where we don't have to use the read in the handheld. We can go off the account number or the meter number. We are going to start marking them with paint, and the meters that are multiple ones in one, we're going to hire a welder to mark them on a tag where we can install them on the meter, just in case you know how kids like to swap the lids up and you might get it on the wrong meter. It happens. And we are also working to provide, our IT department is working with Kevin to provide additional handhelds that we use. We're very familiar with iTron. We know everything about them, their billing, how the software works. We can come in and train you on it. That we can also help with, you know, the billing. So just being able to audit the readings before they even go up to billing, we'll be able to look at them and see, you know, does this one look out online, and then we can go back out and obtain a reading in the field before it even, you know, touches your system. And with this system, we can also view the readings daily. We don't have to wait for a whole week to go by before you know, go back out in the field to see if there's an issue. So that's just a little about our company and what we do.
So, the system you were just describing is a Wi-Fi type of system then?
That's correct. We can, the iTron system, we don't have to be here to access it. Like, we can port into a computer and view the readings at the end of the day. You can upload and download the information daily. And while the meter reader is standing there, you know, and he ships up his route, we can download that information to a computer, view it right there and say, I need you to go back out and get a reading on these meters because maybe, you know, maybe he was at the incorrect meter. Maybe the reading is just, you know, the customer used a lot of kilowatts, and you just want to make sure before you send out a bill. So we'll send them back out to get a reading before it even hits your process, and then we'll, you know, upload it.
What techniques does your company currently employ to try to ensure that the person that you've hired to do the job for us is doing that job correctly?
You know, we run them through all the background process. That's our first one. You know, we make sure driving record, clear background, clear drug test. Then we send them out with a certified trainer, and they can go out and train anywhere from, like I said, 2 weeks to 1 month. And after that, we send that particular trainer back out to, you know, ride with them if they're having any issues. We check with the customer and say, you know, if we don't have access to the reports, a lot of my customers, the majority, I have access to the reports, so I'm able to tell up front that I have an issue before you even see it.
Do you have access to the city's reports?
No, sir.
Okay.
And I can, you know, come back and say, you know, this particular employee is having difficulty reading, you know, the 9s and the 0s, or this particular you know, he's having trouble scoping the meter. So, you know, I'll go back to my customer and say, you'll notice I'm sending a trainer to go back out and ride with him because we notice that he's having difficulties reading. So we'll send the trainer back out with him until we have a comfort level. And that's really important. It's hard when you take out the tool of not having the access daily to be able to monitor that because, you know, they're human, they do make mistakes, and we want to be able to catch it up front before it makes it to your system. So that's something we want to work with and try to resolve. We have our own IT department. You know, we're willing at our cost to come in, mark the meters, you know, do whatever it takes.
What do you mean by mark the meters?
A lot of your meters, you know, it wears off. The meter number wears off. It's just old. It's in the ground. It's water. You know, it rusts. We want to come back out and make sure it's visible, to make sure there's no issues, that they are at the right meter. That's very important.
Is there, what are the concerns that we have as far as sharing the data with them, if any? I don't know that we have any concerns.
No, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any concerns at all. We don't have a way of doing it.
Okay.
The problem that we have is our system is rather old. And as it stands now, we release that data on a monthly basis or a weekly basis? Kevin?
Right now, our current software does not allow networkability. So for us to get those readings, the reader has to complete his route, which usually takes a week. So by the time the reader completes his route and he comes in and uploads and Amber processes, because the software we have now doesn't allow us to see audits before it gets to billing. So we might be 2 weeks in or almost 3 weeks into this process before we ever see that there is a major issue, where with an updated software, we would be able to look at that daily. By being networkable, they can look at it. Their supervisors can log in and look at it as the readers upload it, rather than waiting to that process for us to get finished to come back and upload it. And we've been, our equipment is at the end of its life cycle. They're no longer making parts for our equipment, so whatever's on the shelf is what they're patching our equipment back together with. And we knew this time was coming. We were just trying to hold off until we see which direction we were going to go with AMI or continue on with the handhelds. So it was just a matter of time, and it looks like the time is here.
So you're going to be looking to us very soon for a decision on it. I mean, I know we've been talking about the AMI, we're
Right,
talking about cable,
right.
all
But
those things. We're
But even
still-
if we pursue AMI, you can reasonably expect that it would be a world record to get it done in a year. It's more likely to happen within 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So we have a decision to make as to whether we're going to reinvest in the software and the handhelds in that time period. It's not an inexpensive proposition. Kevin was giving me an estimate of about $50,000 to update that. But it certainly would help quite a bit to have the companies to have the ability to read on a daily basis what the meter readers are doing. Now on the marking issue, my understanding on that is that we have relied on past readings in the handheld to allow the meter reader to verify that they had indeed the right meter. The marking would then enable us to take that past read out of the handheld, which would force the reader to enter in a new number, not knowing what the last number was. So if you had the trying to think of the right word. If you had the propensity
Inclination.
or the inclination, thank you, to estimate based on the last reading, that would be taken away because you wouldn't know what the last reading was, and it would. The theory is that it forces the reader to enter in the right number. So I think AccuRead is proposing they're going to do that on their nickel to get those meters marked, and that would allow us to take that old reading out of the handheld. And if we do the upgrade with the new software, we would just simply have a server here at Civic Center that would download those numbers, and then they would be able to monitor it from their remote location. So it would be an added check and balance.
You know,
on the
why the
process.
50,000 expense if we're basically using their handhelds and everything?
Well, the reason is that's our equipment. When we went with this contract, we kept our equipment in case something happened, we could just automatically pick back
Okay.
up.
Well, that makes sense.
After checking with numerous companies, they didn't suggest us using the current contractor's equipment, no matter who it was, just for that reason.
Right.
If something happened, you didn't want all of your equipment to walk out the door with the company. So that's why we kept our equipment. And we actually had put in this year's budget to upgrade these handhelds. We have just been holding that process off to see where we were going with that. So.
And what
And-
is the,
And even if we went to AMI, we still would want to keep handheld around because we may have times when we have to go out and do spot reads.
and what's the status of our current contract with your company? Is it up for renewal shortly?
It's up now. It's up now.
So we're on a month-to-month basis? I'm
Yes.
assuming that's the.
That would be a good way to characterize it, yes, sir.
Okay.
And we can also, our IT department can actually go out and research the prices for you, not, to save Kevin the trouble, you know, because we deal with them daily with other, customers. So we have, we can deal with the Itrons and the Datamatics and, Neptunes. We can go to them and say, okay, we have a customer that's interested, you know, provide me your pricing and we can negotiate for you. And like I explained, we could also save you the cost of training on the software because we know how to do it. So that would be a cost that would, you would not have to incur. We could pick it up and train you on how to work the billing part of it, and then our IT department could assist Kevin, you know, if he had any issues.
I know,
Go ahead, Rick.
I was just gonna say, I know we've had some reading errors, and the impact of those has been exaggerated or compounded by the weather and all the other issues, so I don't know that it's a huge problem, but certainly it's perceived as one.
Oh, of course.
And so we certainly need to be more accurate.
And we want to take that element out. When you don't have, you know, that staring you in the face to look at, then, you know you're at the right meter, and you got to get a reading. It's nothing to compare it to. You know, you're at that. And that takes that element away, which is what we prefer. We do not like having that. So we prefer not to have it at all.
It sounds like a step, an improvement and a step in the right direction for
Right.
accountability wise.
And that's what we want to do. And like I told Kevin, we'll take the extra step at our expense to go out and mark the meters. We'll do whatever it takes, because we want to make sure that you're happy as our customer.
Rachel, it's also my understanding that you've recently received a new account in Miami,
That's correct.
and that you're going to be reading the gas meters for Oklahoma Natural Gas as well.
That's correct.
Rachel, can you explain to us, let's go on the other side of the issue and say we run into what we've had the last couple of months, where we've had many customers that are unhappy with their readings. What is the process that you have in place to verify that the numbers are correct, and how do you work with us to make sure if we get, start to see several complaints, what is your process that you guys have in place to address that?
Well, we start retraining, and then we go out and we obtain the rereads to make sure that, to see what the problem is. Is he or is she at the wrong meter? Are they, reading the dials incorrectly? Are they having difficulty scoping? So you have to go out and investigate each one to kind of see, what the issue is. And then at that point, we, get with the trainer and we explain, what needs to be done, and then we send them out to retrain them. Or if we feel like we can't, we'll just, we release them. We keep the trainer here to continue to read the meters because he's familiar with your area until we find a replacement, and then he'll stay and continue to train them.
And what, this is new for me, where's the data stored? You guys have the data, or we
Here,
have it?
you have the data.
So Amber's able to get to any, there's no reason why she couldn't get to any information she
Correct.
needs.
Rachel, you've mentioned the term scoping a few times, and for the benefit of those in the audience and those watching on television, could you explain what scoping is?
If you have a customer that has a lock gate and you knock on the door and there's no one at home, and you need to be able to access that meter, and you can see it from over the fence, but you cannot get into the fence to obtain a reading, we do provide them with binoculars or scopes so they can scope it from a distance and obtain the reading. We do try our best to access the customer if at all possible, but a lot of the times they don't want you on their property, and you still have to obtain a reading. So.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, how many, do you have 2 readers for this account, or
Yes, I have 2 readers for this account.
have you had any turnovers as far as employees?
Yes. A lot.
A lot?
So it's been constant training.
In one area, yes. And that's why, unfortunately, we moved out to the surrounding area because we can't find anyone locally that is willing to do this particular job. So
Do you provide services to any communities close to us?
we provide in Batesville
Arkansas?
and Bartlesville, I'm sorry. Is it Bartlesville?
Okay.
Bartlesville. I'm sorry. I have covered a large
close there.
territory. I also do cover that in Arkansas, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and we do pull from numerous areas. I have 3 people that's trained to pick up your routes. So if I lose someone, you're not going to see that effect because I'm going to send someone the very next day to pick up that route. And that's what we're known for I have multiple people cross-trained. So
What's the process if they don't get a reading? Do they let Amber or somebody know here, Kevin or somebody?
What we do, if they don't get a reading, we will send them back out on a reread that Amber kicks out. And if they still can't get it, then we send out Phil. And Phil, there's not too many places that Phil can't get to after his many, many years of experience that he can't get into. And talking about those access issues and scoping, that has changed so much even since I was reading meters 15 years ago. People used to like to see us and want to talk to us. We were the one person they got to talk to a month. That's kind of locked down a lot. People have locked their gates. They don't really want you in your yard, you know. So there's been a lot of access issues that have changed over time that creates more scoping that has to be done with binoculars. I can get a much more accurate reading if I'm 2 foot away than I am 200 foot away. So that chance to error grows every time we can't access a yard. Even though there's an ordinance that says we can, sometimes we just can't. And so that there's always that chance of increased error when we have to scope a meter. And that's just increasingly getting more and more people locking us out.
I think a lot of that can help though by seeing the same face there every time.
Yes. And that turnover has been on one half of the route. We've had one meter reader that has been consistent for the solid year. The other side of that route has had the turnover. So the retraining has been on the same half of that route for the consistent amount of time that they've turned over. So we have really one consistent and then one inconsistent when it comes to retraining and retraining and retraining.
So do you, there's not really any actions, it's just an informational item at this point?
Yes, sir.
on
This
a
is just for an
month-to-month
opportunity
basis
for you to ask questions of the vendor and hopefully alleviate any concerns you might have had.
Okay.
This other half you was talking about, do you see that stabilizing any?
I really hope so. I know that with having, picking up the gas, that'll be 3 additional people that I can also train. So I do see that stabilizing. And, I don't see any issue there. I feel like we have a great gentleman. He has a family, and you know he needs to work. He has a baby on the way and a small one, so he has a desire to work. And you know, if it doesn't work out, I have backup. So
Okay.
I'm always prepared. I always have someone in the pipeline. So
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Item number 19, other new business, if any, which has arisen since the posting of the agenda. Any new business?
Mr. Chairman, one item, just as a matter of notification, I did not anticipate I would get it today, but it came in today, is the first invoice from Thompson Hines, and I wanted to disclose to you that I've hired the firm of Thompson Hines. They are experts in railroad law, and they are working with us with the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad regarding the possible transfer of a spur line from the BNSF to the city of Miami. And we'll keep you posted on that. This is primarily to serve the industrial customers, primarily Hopkins and Scepter.
And potential for some expansion maybe in that area if we can get control of this line.
Yes, sir, that would provide us with another competitive advantage to make it more attractive for them to stay from a retention standpoint and also expand.
Great, thank you. Item number 20, staff reports. So your written reports are in your packet, and the staff is available if there are any questions. Item 21, trustee and community announcements. Any announcements? Item 22, future agenda planning. Anything that the members want to make sure we cover in the next agenda or two? Okay. Item number 21, need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
McLean,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay. We are going to move right into that meeting is over, and we're going to start our council meeting. Regular meeting for Tuesday, February 18th.
Item number 2 is public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the council on any of the agenda items? There being none, item number 3, consent agenda. Staff is recommending items 4 through 15 be on the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to see removed and discussed separately? If not, may we have a motion, please?
Are you okay, Joe?
Is there any changes on,
Well, we probably need to pull it out now.
Yeah, if you'll tell me which item, Joe, I'll
pull
pull it out.
4?
Item 4, okay.
Pull 4 out.
Um,
Now I'll make a motion to approve items 5 through 15 on the consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
McLean,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
all ayes.
Do you want Joe to take up item 4 after executive session? Is that
Yes.
what you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay, then we're gonna move item 4 to be after executive session. And that would then get us to item number 16. ODOT request to sign letter regarding National Highway System roads newly designated in Miami. Mr. Bishop.
Yes, sir. Give me just a second. I'm now discombobulated here.
Joe tricked you.
So it's ODOT request to sign letter regarding National Highway System roads newly designated in Miami. Is that correct?
Yep.
Thank you, Your Honor. Briefly, when the last federal highway bill was approved by Congress, it automatically moved all functionally classified roads into the National Highway System. What we mean by functionally classified is that roads are classified by their functionality. So you have things like collectors, you have local streets, you have arterials, and I think there's a couple of grades of arterials. Once you get a road into a certain classification, traditionally it's been eligible for certain sources of funding for repair and reconstruction, predominantly from the federal government. However, they have not, up and until this last federal highway bill, which was dubbed T21, been included into the National Highway System. The result of this is that now all improvements on those roads will become subject to the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, which will require some type of an environmental review every time that we want to do work on one of those functionally classified roads. These roads would also be subject then to highway construction standards. So if ODOT has standards that are not up to the National Highway System, then we would have to construct those roads to that standard. In essence, basically, the Turnpike standard for I-44 is a prime example. We would also then have to comply with federal regulations on signage and billboards, sometimes referred to as the Lady Bird Law. There is certain prohibitions on certain federal highways, and there's a process where you have to go by to get those permitted. We would lose our primacy on permitting those structures to the federal government, or I guess at that point to ODOT's person who handles that. ODOT, I drove to Oklahoma City and met with ODOT to discuss this because at first blush we were a bit suspicious as to what was at the base of this. Was this a way for the ODOT to avoid some type of maintenance responsibility? And at that point I was informed that no, and in fact both of the MPOs, metropolitan planning organizations who get much more money than we do in rural areas, were also taking steps to opt out of the National Highway System. Staff has not yet had time to confirm with the MPOs that they are indeed opting out, but ODOT tells us that if all the cities don't opt out, the state will lose transportation funding because they will not be in compliance with the act. That being said, staff is requesting the council authorize removal of functionally classified roads in Miami from the National Highway System upon confirmation from staff that the two state MPOs are also opting out. Theory there being that if the MPOs are opting out, it's not a good thing. Because if it was a good thing, they would stay in.
So we can opt out and be in compliance. I'm a little confused by that.
Well, we're not out of compliance. We're helping ODOT get into compliance. But what it portends for us is there's really not an advantage to us to stay in. In fact, there's probably a disadvantage to staying in. But I want to verify, the recommendation to you is allow us the opportunity to visit with the MPOs and verify that they are indeed pulling out.
And so tonight, are you asking for some action?
Yes, sir. We're asking for you to authorize transmittal of correspondence to ODOT, informing them that we're removing our functionally classified roads from the National Highway System, but that we wouldn't actually send that letter to ODOT until after we've had a chance to confirm from the MPOs that they are indeed pulling out. If they are not, then we will not send the letter. We'll bring it back to you for further consideration. My understanding is that so far in their progress, I guess they're to the M's now. There's only been one community that has refused to withdraw, and they're still working on that community.
They being ODOT, or they being who?
I'm not sure I fully understand the they in that situation. There's one city that has not agreed to request removal of their functionally classified roads from the National Highway System.
And so there are no negative consequences to us?
We have not perceived any based on the information that ODOT has given us. That's why I'm using the MPOs as a litmus test. And to kind of give that a case in point, is that the MPOs get a considerably larger pot of money for updating and maintaining their roads that are functionally classified. They get an actual line item appropriation in the federal budget for that. All other communities that are not in MPOs, they're getting their funding source from ODOT through a rural process. And ODOT goes through, for example, the 69A, the A streets. These are the roads that are functionally classified, even third that we've been talking about, the truck route. So ODOT is going to lose that funding that they're getting for those programs because they're not in compliance, because they're not doing these extra things that inclusion in the National Highway System requires. Now, they do those on the interstates, those that are definitely in the national system. But what we want to use as a litmus test is if the MPOs are indeed pulling out, they have professional staffs that do nothing but transportation planning, that are up to date on every nuance of federal transportation planning. I've got to participate in MPOs before, and I can assure you that those folks really know what they're doing. So if their professional staffs determine it's in their best interest to comply with ODOT's request, then we would agree that it would be in our best interest as well. There's no inherent advantage for us to stay in if the MPOs don't see an advantage in staying in.
So ODOT's request is that we send a letter telling them that we want to withdraw.
Correct.
Okay.
An MPO is?
A Metropolitan Planning Organization. And in Oklahoma, there are only two. That's ACOG and INCOG. Grand Gateway is not an MPO. You have to have a certain population density before you're designated as an MPO. And we are not.
What do we have in the National Highway System in Miami?
Well, every road that we have that's functionally classified was automatically included into the National Highway System. So, and we're not talking about 10, we're talking about A streets, we're talking about 3rd. There's a list. I think 22nd is functionally classified.
Is ODOT sort of lobbying for municipalities to take this approach?
Yes, because ODOT does not want to comply with the NEPA provisions. For illustrative purposes, that means if we were going to do work on 3rd Street that we've been talking about, that we're planning to have a workshop on, we would have to perform an environmental impact statement before we did that.
I've heard of NEPA. You'd hear about it a lot at City Council in the future if ODOT's lobbying effort is unsuccessful.
Any other questions? And I move to authorize the removal of functionally classified roads in Miami from the national highway system upon confirmation from the staff that the 2 state MPOs are also opting out. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Schultz,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. Item 17, presentation by Miami Code Enforcement Department. Chief Harrelson, and let's see, Officer Crockett is here also, and Captain Anderson. We got everybody here tonight.
We all came.
And the quarterback, the running
We
back,
have,
and the blocking tackle.
Previously submitted a PowerPoint presentation to council. I don't know if that made the PowerPoint, if you'd like to do some talking points off that presentation, or if you have specific questions for the code enforcement team.
I think
we're happy to field those.
I don't know if everybody had a chance to review it. I reviewed it. I think it'd be helpful to go through it briefly.
Okay. First of all, our goal is to establish a working partnership between ourselves, the citizens, the business owners of Miami, to keep Miami a beautiful place. We want to beautify our city. We do this by several different means. There are different avenues. First of all, we try to make contact with people and just give them the expectations. Give them a chance to rectify the problem before we do take any action on it. We've been very successful in that area. Officer Crockett makes contact with numerous people. We'll show you the stats here in just a moment. We do reflect those results illustrated in closed cases. They bring that PowerPoint up.
I think we're trying to get there now.
Okay.
Chief, Captain.
Captain, would you explain the closed cases? Is that if Officer Crockett went out and said, you got 2 days to do this, and he goes back and sees that's done?
And it's done, it's just closed. Yes.
That's closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are personal contacts, and that's exactly what it is. The cases that we've run into where we have an occupant or a residency that's actually have someone live there. They have some problems, some kind of code violation. First thing we do, hey, we'd like you to bring this to spec or code. Explain what the code is, code violation is, and give them a reasonable time to make that right. And we've had just incredible success doing that. As opposed to, I know that the council just authorized the writing citations on that. Most of those we haven't had to go to that point. Officer Crockett's done an excellent job of just giving people an opportunity to correct that, make corrective actions. And he's had really great success for the ones that he's contacted. And you know, that's the best way to do business, is let them know what the standard is, give them an opportunity to come to compliance with that. There have been a couple that have not got to that point in a timely manner, and we've had to write tickets. Thus far, Officer Crockett's done an excellent job of just taking care of the problem, and that is our ultimate goal, is to solve the problem, get the problem fixed. And if we can do that at the lowest level possible, that's our goal. We don't want to cause an undue burden to our citizens through financial obligation through the court or through a ticket or abatement process. So if we can solve those at the easiest, cheapest level, that's where we want to go first. Secondly, we do have citations, and the council did recently approve the issuance of citations to send them through city court. Thus far, I believe we've had 3 people that we've had problems with. We've had to issue citation, send it to court. We use door hangers. When you can't make contact with an occupant of a house, we'll leave a door hanger. It gives the info on the information on the violation. It also gives the code enforcement officers information so they can call with any questions they have or any information they need on the violation. If we can't make contact with a resident, or we have problems and we have to start the abatement process, we do issue a 10-day letter that's sent to the owners to inform them they have 10 days to be in compliance with the code violation. After a 10-day letter, the abatement letter, we issue a work order. We have a work crew, city contract work crew that does all of our abatements. They do all the mowing. Mowing season's when we use them the most. Obviously, spring coming into summer is when they get the most use for properties. They have 30 days to pay that bill. If it's not paid, we can either attach that to their utility bill or place a lien on the property. We've done both. I believe, was it last year? We had $40,000 collected through tax liens through that process. I'm sorry? Tax liens, yeah, process. Going to our activity. These are, since the police department's had code enforcement, that did start right before July of this year, so we have about 6 months worth of statistics. In July, we issued 41 door hangers. We abated 14 properties, had 22 work orders, and closed out 32 cases, which is just make contact with people and say, hey, this is what needs to be done, and they've taken care of that.
But that could be part of the door hanger process.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, yeah.
those methods of notification resulted in it being closed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And the work orders and the abatements don't always match, because once a property's been abated, for the next 6 months, you no longer have to go through the process of the 10-day letter notifying everybody. We can send a work order out on that property anytime within the next 6 months without further notification through that. That's part of the abatement process, is it stays under abatement for 6 months. So that's why sometimes you'll see us with 14 abatements and 22 work orders, because some of those properties, and generally those are properties that are either abandoned or in foreclosure, and we can't track down a physical owner to say, hey, this needs to be mowed. Mm-hmm. There's nobody to cut a ticket to, so that's why we have to go through that process. Moving to August, we had 12 door hangers, 8 abatements, only 1 work order, and 22 closed cases. September, we had 14 door hangers, 17 abatements, 14 work orders, 18 closed cases, and 3 vehicles. And the vehicles are the abandoned vehicles or vehicles with flat tires, broken window, no registration, something to that effect. In October, there was 13 door hangers, 16 abatements, 2 work orders, 41 closed cases, 3 that were just totally unfounded. Got there was no problem whatsoever, and again, 1 vehicle. November, we had 1 door hanger, 1 abatement, no work orders, 20 closed, and 2 unfounded. In December, we had 1 abatement and 5 closed cases.
Certainly
and they do have...
so there seems to be a seasonal pattern.
It is definitely a seasonal pattern. Grass is obviously the biggest thing during spring, summer, rainy mowing season. We do have a significant increase in activity. We've also had some of those numbers fluctuate. We do have 2 officers assigned to code enforcement, Officer Crockett and Officer Tyson Barnes. Currently, Officer Barnes is reassigned to patrol duties to help us assist in the PD. So Officer Crockett's done all this work by himself for quite a while. We have had great success working together. I know that the sanitation department, other officers, residents have all called and offered assistance. Give Officer Crockett some direction on things he may want to check out. And we encourage that for any of our citizens, anybody. If we see a problem, if you see a problem, then give us a call, let us know about it, and make us aware of it. Officer Crockett cruises the streets every day looking and trying to find areas that need improvement, but he can't be everywhere. So we highly encourage all of our city departments, all of our citizens to be proactive in code enforcement, to give us a call and to help us out. That's the only way we can make the town more beautiful, is to pitch together and do it all together.
I know a couple of the council members have gone on a ride along with Officer Crockett, and I had a conversation with him just this morning, actually. He pulled up and there was a piece of trash in the yard, and he ran and grabbed it real quick just in case. But, you know, community policing model is, you know, something that Officer Crockett's familiar with, and he definitely gets out there and works with the citizens to try to
He's
resolve
done
them
an
in a
excellent
proactive
job.
way.
We commend Officer
Yeah.
Crockett has done an excellent job of code enforcement. He's taken it and ran and done an excellent job. And I commend his efforts. I'm proud of him. I think he's done a great job for us, and he's made us look good. I know that I believe Ms. McLean and Mr. Johnson went for a ride along. We'd encourage, if any of the rest of the councilmen would like to get the experience of the first-hand knowledge, you're more than welcome to come ride. Officer Crockett will take you, show you the city and some of the problem areas, some of the things that he does. And we'd invite you anytime you want to come out. Be more than happy to get you going. Are there any questions?
I guess I got a twofold question. I don't know how to ask it. Officer Crockett, when you're out, it's probably not going to be a popular question, but do you run into county property, and how do you report that to anybody, or?
Yes, right now, currently on my list, I've got 54 county properties in the city of Miami.
54?
54 properties that are completely controlled by Ottawa County. They have, I have, the poor county commissioners over there know me on a first name basis, but they do mow when they have the money to mow. That's exactly what I've been told. We got some good cooperation last year. Towards the end of the year, we had a new person over at the county. I was fortunate enough to get several properties that went all summer long without being mowed, which it makes it kind of, some people don't understand that some properties we don't have control over. And the county properties are mainly throughout the southwest, but they're also throughout the town. Those are turned over after delinquent taxes. They're turned over to the sheriff's office, and the county now owns them property. So that's, we deal with those.
So you report it on a regular basis?
Yes.
And you work with the county commissioners to get them cleaned up.
Yeah, actually, I can't think of the secretary's name over there that got tired of hearing me right off the bat. But yeah, I call. It generally worked out to be I was calling about once a week in order to see if they had any money that they could mow some lawns. I had a couple of lawns that in the northwest part of the city that were. One of them was 4 lots in size on a corner, and the other one was a lot and a half in the middle of a block. I've got properties on both sides of these properties that were well manicured, and they had to get out every day. They didn't understand that Ottawa County had control over that. All they knew was it was in the city of Miami, and we wasn't doing anything about it at the time. I found a nice cure of that by handing out phone numbers to the city commissioner, or the county commissioners. It cured that.
Thank you. Christy, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, Officer Crockett definitely opened up my eyes. I've lived here as a child on up, and for me as a council member, and as a citizen of Miami, it has been easy to ride around in Miami and see the beautiful parts of it. And Officer Crockett was nice enough to show me
That's well put.
some of the not so beautiful parts of it, and I was ashamed. Because Miami has a lot to offer, and when you see some of the things that I got to see that day, it turns you upside down about your city. I admire the work that you do. That's got to be hard, day in and day out, to see people living in some of the conditions that I saw in and then go home at the end of the day and know that you can only do so much. So it's a hard job, and I really appreciate it. And I noticed in the presentation that you talked about public education. And so I'm curious that you're working on a campaign or some kind of work from a public education standpoint. Are you ready to share any of that?
It won't be, and we go further because we haven't got anything really solidly developed yet. But I've also found out if I take my car and park it at one end of the block and start walking down to the other end talking to people, that it makes a grave difference on what that neighborhood looks like in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. It's not that much more of my time. I get to talk to someone who's not trying to kick me out of the yard or sick their dog on me, and that part's enjoyable. It's also showed up in the neighborhood, the northwest part of town. I don't know whether anybody drove through there or not a year or two ago, but it was kind of scary about driving through there. I keep telling our chief and the captain and everything, I challenge you to drive through the northwest right at the moment and see what the yards and the properties look like. And we're not going to get all of them all the time. There are incidents. I can't have. I don't have authorization to have some neighbor pick up their kids' toys that's in the backyard. It looks terrible. It's a kid's toys. I have got nothing on that authorization. During springtime or rain last year, it was awful. And it was awful on my part and everybody else's part because people who took care of their yards wasn't able to get into their yards.
Yeah.
So for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we looked like we was living in a jungle. Those yards was taken care of. Some people didn't see that as a problem. Right now, this month, the start of this month, and most likely the end of this month, we have 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts during the day. Things are going to blow around.
I sat in my dining room today and watched the Walmart sack going through.
Yes, yes. Those are things that's going to have. There's going to have to be some understanding in that area. I have several businesses in town that do their best to keep cardboard under control. Again, when you have a 25 to 45 mile an hour wind, I don't know what they're going to do on that except pull big trailers inside their business. It becomes a problem. For the most part, they've taken care of it, but there is a small period of time, a window frame in there where it doesn't look like it's being taken care of.
Yeah.
Butch, thank you, and I just want to reiterate that what they're basically asking is for the citizens and businesses, if you have a problem, please call Officer Crockett, Officer Barnes, and let them know. They'll respond as quickly as they can, and Captain Anderson and Chief Harrelson. We appreciate you guys taking this on under the auspices of the police department. You know, we've had code enforcement for a long time. We operated as a separate department of the city, and we did the best we could, but I really think it's where it belongs. It's my opinion. I think it's where it belongs, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Well, I'd like to thank the city council for the confidence that you've shown in us to take this on. And, clearly, there's a learning curve. I know more about, like I was telling David Anderson, I know more about code enforcement than I ever thought I was ever going to know. You know, but I rent, so my yard gets mowed, but it's included in the rental payment. But we do appreciate the opportunity, and again, I understand that the opportunity to come out and do an on-site was very beneficial. I also understand the value of having communications as a council person to your constituents. So when you have the constituents that call upon you and want to know about, this or that, there's a little bit of confusion exactly what code enforcement is and the fact that your neighbor has 2 playground sets in the front yard, and so, but we'd be more glad to help you, answer those questions. We're very well. And again, thank you all very much for the opportunity for us to provide this service for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And again, the invitation's open anytime. Please.
I will take you up again.
I'll take you up.
Thank you.
Item number 18, approve mayor's nomination of Dustin Olds to serve as a tribal representative on the Miami Flood Mitigation Advisory Board. Let me just explain that a little bit. We have a flood mitigation advisory board that is made up of myself and Councilman Sharbert and then several members of the community. We always try to have a tribal representative on that board. The last representative that we had resigned. He moved out of the area. And so we asked the Intertribal Council to submit a name to us of someone they would like to be their representative, and they submitted Dustin Olds. I've met with Dustin, talked with him. He actually came to our meeting last week, just sat in the audience, and he's very familiar with the issue. Owns some property that floods actually, and so I think he's going to be a great representative in addition to that board, and so I would like to submit his name for approval.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve your nomination of Dustin Olds to serve as a tribal representative on the Miami Flood Mitigation Advisory Board.
And second, please.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Who got it?
I'll give it to Joe.
Johnson?
Aye.
Sharbit?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye, thank
All
you.
ayes.
Item number 19, other new business, if any, which has arisen. Is there any new business?
No new business, Your Honor.
Item 20, staff reports. They are in your packet, available, and staff is present for questions. Any questions for staff? There being none, mayor and council community announcements. Any announcements?
No.
Okay, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we are going to go into executive session.
Oh, we got Joe.
Kim?
We don't need him.
Go ahead and shut the door on him.
They're gonna lock you out.
Okay, we are coming back on item number 22, which is executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B4 for confidential communications with the city attorney. May we have a motion, please?
Mayor, I make a motion to move the council into executive session to discuss the investigation of the allegations in the Jerry Payne federal complaint and possible responses thereto based upon our attorney's advice that public disclosure would seriously impair our ability to process the matter in the public interest. To discuss pending IAFF and FOP negotiations, and to discuss employment contract with City Manager Jeff Bishop, City Attorney David Anderson, Police Chief George Harrelson, and Paralegal Krista Duhan.
And may we have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call?
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Sharbit?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye, we are now in executive session. The agenda, which dealt with annual employment contracts for Bishop, Anderson, Duhan, and Harrelson. There's going to be no action tonight on those items. We'll deal with them probably at our next meeting. And with that being said, I think we're at the last item, which is the motion to, oh wait a minute.
23.
23.
Item number 23, which is approved tentative agreement with IAFF. Do we have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Roll call?
McLean?
Aye.
Sharbit?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
All ayes.
Item 24, future agenda planning. Are there any items that we want to make sure we have on future agendas or that we want to discuss? There being none, item 25, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
And second, please.
Second.
Roll call?
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.